They don't tell them. So that's one that won't work on this one. Either way, instead of a C or something like that. All right, well, welcome you to the study meeting of the West Valley City Council and call to order. It is November 15th, 2022, and it is 4:30 p.m. We are in the multi-purpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have Councilman Whetstone on Zoom with us, Councilman Norfelt, Councilman Christensen, Councilman Hoon, and Councilman Harmon at the table. And we have Mr. Pyle and Ms. Kamick, our city manager and our city recorder, respectively. We'll excuse Councilman Fitzsimonu until he should be joining us any minute. I'll turn the time to the council for the minutes of November 1st, 2022. If there's any discussion or a motion on those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those are passed.
Here, it looks like Jake just joined us.
Okay, we have Councilman Fitzsimonu online with us. Thank you. We have our regular meeting this afternoon. Do we have any adjustments, changes?
No, ma'am. All
Okay.
the same, I believe. We talked earlier. There were no changes, right?
Okay.
I forgot there.
Nope.
Sorry.
It's all right. All right, and next week we have a proclamation recognizing November 26th as Small Business Saturday. Do we just want to announce it or would somebody like to read it? Seeing no volunteers, we'll just announce it. Okay, and encourage people to shop local. We'll start with our first public hearing, which is going to be application SA 4/2022. And we'll turn the time over to Mr. Lehman. And our action item on that one would be 2241.
Thank you, Mayor Steve Lehman with Planning and Zoning. This application is relatively straightforward. The request before the council is to consolidate lots 5 and 6 of the JMYL subdivision into one lot. The subdivision of the property that you're looking at here is on the northwest corner of Redwood Road and 4100 South. The two lots highlighted there in red are lots 5 and 6. The next slide is just a zoomed in version, and we just have a couple of illustrations to show you. So the first slide is just looking from the south side of 4100 South across the property. You can see the Sage Valley apartments being constructed in the back. The area where the trees, just to the north of the trees, is the subject property. And the next illustration is the original subdivision plat. This was recorded in January of 2019. And the two lots are just along 4100 South at the bottom of that plat. And so the next slide is just simply the consolidation of these lots into one. A couple of years ago, we were able to handle this as a staff application, but the legislature changed the state law that required any lot in a recorded subdivision that would be amended needed a plat amendment. So that is why we're here before you today. And that is our report.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Lehman?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn the time over to Mr. Johnson for resolution 22-155. An agreement with Modern Display.
Hello, council. We did a float this past year. We originally planned on doing it back in 2020, but COVID hit us. And so it was put on hold for 2 years. This year it came out and we had our first float for West Valley City in over a decade. We had a discussion with Mr. Pyle and council a few months ago that there was an interest in it. We were able to secure an agreement, potential agreement with Modern Display for 3 years, $51,000. So $17,000 a year. That includes storage for free, and that includes no escalation in price to do the float. And that would be paid annually. The $17,000 would be paid right before the float was constructed, and the final 50% would be paid when the float was completed. And that would take us all the way to 2026. This past year, we had some wonderful volunteers, including Mayor Lang, who led as a wonderful farmer. And we had several others that were volunteering. We had my hometown that came out for West Fest that followed after the parade or after the float as well. And it was a great success, but it is $51,000 for 3 years. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, anything?
Ma'am, I did have one
Yes.
question. So you have a 1-year option too. It basically would be the same price. We just wouldn't have storage, right?
Correct. So it would be 17,000 plus 2,000 in storage, and then it would not lock in the annual price. So there's the chance that it would escalate
Right.
yearly, and then we'd have to find a place to store it.
Just so you all knew and had that option.
Okay. Thank you for that extra information. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for our new business, we will consider application SMI 9/2022, and we'll turn the time over to Mr. Lehman again.
Thank you, Mayor. This application is located just south of a subdivision that you approved a few months back called the Carpe Diem Octum subdivision. This property is located on 5600 West and south of 5400 South. So the area highlighted in red is the second phase. The piece of property to the north, similar size, was part of phase 1. And north of that is the Holiday Oil. Property to the west is property owned by UTA, approximately 7 acres. And property to the south is property owned in the Kearns Metro Township. We believe that is zoned for multifamily housing. So the purpose of this application is to subdivide the property into 2 lots. We do have a couple of slides for you just to familiarize yourself again with the property. This slide is looking to the south along 5600 West. Improvements are existing, as you can see, curb gutter, sidewalk, park strip. We will be doing our new street lights here, so we'll get rid of the Cobra heads that you see in this illustration. The next slide looks just to the southwest. The fence that's there, the utilities right there denote the property line between West Valley City and the Kearns Metro Township property. The next slide is looking to the northwest across the site. And then I believe the last slide is the subdivision plat itself. Approximately 2 acres of property. The larger lot, or lot 1, will have a multi-tenant building, and the lot to the south will have a single building. Access to the subdivision, actually for both of these phases, will be gained just to the north of lot 1 in a shared access. That will be jointly used by the Utah Transit Authority. And that is our report.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Lehman on this one? Good job.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda, which is an abandoned portion of storm drain easement. I'm into the stormwater bit. So Mr. Pyle or Dan, who would you like?
I can do it real quick, ma'am.
Okay.
There's no cost to it. It actually is in conjunction with the preceding project that you just
This one?
heard about, right? so nothing unusual and would enable that project.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Pyle on this one? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our communications. And we're going to have a presentation by Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District and Granger Hunter. But I didn't know, Steve, did you want to get up first or just let them start?
Well, it'd be great to have you.
Okay, so we'll turn the time. We have Mr. Alan Packard. And then we have with Jordan Valley Water. And we have Jason Helms here with Granger Hunter Improvement District and Deborah Armstrong, one of the trustees for Granger Hunter as backup. Okay, it's all yours, Alan.
All right. Thank you very much. Happy to come and present information about Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District to the City Council. And just a variety of water issues that we think are interesting. First of all, Jordan Valley Water provides primarily wholesale water service to the communities that are shown on this map, all the way up to in the northwest, Magna, Granger Hunter Improvement District, covering most of West Valley City, South Salt Lake on the north border, and then all the way pretty much to the county boundary on the south. And our primary sources of water to serve these communities is water stored in Jordanelle Reservoir, and to a lesser extent, water stored in Deer Creek Reservoir. And then we also rely on some direct flow water in the Provo River system and some groundwater in Salt Lake Valley. The governance of Jordan Valley Water is by a 9-member board of trustees, and Mayor Lang is our vice chair. Another prominent West Valley City resident, Corey Rushton, is our chair. And each of our 9 trustees represents a different geographic area in our service area. They're each nominated by their local municipality that they're representing, and then appointed by the governor. We see 4 real interesting challenges that are each pulling at our water supply. I'll begin on the right and then go counterclockwise. The existing challenge we see is a pattern for the past several decades of how development has occurred and how we traditionally landscape our improvements. And that inertia of the existing system and the culture that we have is heavily favors turf grass. And that's a thing that we're trying to overcome going into the future. Next, we have a challenge with our climate and warming temperatures, longer growing seasons, a greater demand for existing landscapes. The environment, the issues with low levels in the Great Salt Lake is prominent on the minds of our residents, and it's to protect that watershed and that ecosystem is really important. A completely dry Great Salt Lake is going to have really bad consequences for quality of life for everyone within Jordan Valley service area. And then the last one, of course, is growth. We are expecting continued robust growth in the Jordan Valley service area, and I'll touch on each of these. Current conditions, of course, are pretty extended in severe drought that we're experiencing. The reservoirs that Jordan Valley really looks to gauge the reliability of our water supply, there's 3 main storage reservoirs that we pay attention to. On the right is Utah Lake. In the middle is Deer Creek Reservoir, and on the left-hand side is Jordanelle Reservoir. And the orange dashed line on these charts is the 10-year average as of October. And the black line, dashed lines are maximum storage in each of those reservoirs. And our current total combined volume in those three reservoirs is 45% of full volume. A year ago at this time, we were at 51% of full volume. And so we're still continuing to see a slight decline. We do feel like the message in both 2021 and 2022 this year to the public to minimize their outdoor water use has largely been complied with. We feel pretty good about the reduction in water use in both those years against what it typically would have been in such hot and dry summers that we've had the last 2 summers. That's frozen up on me. Oh, here we go. Jordan Valley has prepared a drought contingency plan in which we identify different levels of water supply restriction. For 2022, we implemented and established a level 1 moderate water supply restriction. And in that level, we target at least a 10% reduction in water use by residents throughout our service area. And we work with our retail agencies that we wholesale to, like Granger Honder Improvement District, to provide messaging to their customers to achieve that. And as compared to the usage in 2020, we are down about 12 or so %. 2021, we are also down about that from the 2020 usage. So we did achieve our target reduction. If we are compelled to be more strict in future years, there will be, Jordan Valley will have surcharges to our wholesale rates for water taken beyond a target amount. So for example, in a level 2 condition, there would be a surcharge of 25% of on top of the rate charged to any water taken beyond the target amount, which is 110% of, in this case, Granger Hunter Improvement District's wholesale annual contract. And then just for your information, Jordan Valley operates a retail service area in scattered parts of the valley. And we also will implement surcharges on our retail rate to the tiers with the most water consumption, depending on the severity of the water supply restrictions. This is an interesting chart showing the dramatic temperature increases that we've experienced, averaged over the summer months, June, July, August, going all the way back to the late 1800s. And you can see the last several years, a marked shift upward in that temperature. And I mentioned earlier that makes conservation of outdoor water use all the more complicated because plants demand more water. There's a longer growing season. So it definitely is a challenge stretching our water supply. Great Salt Lake, as I mentioned, an extremely prominent issue right now. We recognize that as new water supplies are developing and to accommodate new growth, the impacts that the development of those new supplies will have on the Jordan River and on the Great Salt Lake need to be accounted for. And those ecological needs should be addressed. Growth, okay. So here's some population projections in the Jordan Valley service area. We're now at about 760,000 population within our service area. And by 2065, we expect it to be over or approaching 1.3 million. And this data is from the state of Utah Governor's Office of Management and Budget, and also coordinated with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. We worked quite a bit with Salt Lake County in their West Bench growth planning study. And this map shows the area highlighted in orange of that study area. And we expect that much of that area would be ultimately be part of Jordan Valley service area as our member cities annex westward. And that will certainly be a challenge to address and support that growth. Well, a few years ago, Jordan Valley felt an increased urgency in light of these different things that are stretching our water supply. And so we've been on a bit of a campaign to all of our member agencies, member cities, to look to the future, do everything that we can so that future growth is done in a water efficient way. And to take steps to have existing water users implement some changes and offer incentives for them to do that. In late 2019, Jordan Valley adopted water efficiency standards where we don't have any land use jurisdiction ourselves, but we tried to work with municipalities within our service area to implement these standards in their own individual municipal codes. And our efficiency standards would limit the amount of turf grass in a residential front yard and in commercial settings for new construction. And also either residential or commercial settings, there would be no grass in park strips. And we just think that this is a smart way to grow so that the new development doesn't create a liability for us in the future to go and pay money to rip out convert those landscapes. There are some really interesting financial opportunities to incentivize existing customers to retrofit their properties. One thing that which Salt Lake County is putting together a program, and they're going to have Jordan Valley administer the program for them, is to offer municipalities on city-owned facilities targeted rebate monies up to $2 per square foot for municipally owned properties to change out turf grass landscaping to more water efficient landscaping. And if there's anyone at West Valley City that's interested in pursuing this funding opportunity, we'd invite you to contact us, and specifically Courtney Brown at Jordan Valley Water can answer questions on how we can make that funding available to the city. Also for the city residents, Jordan Valley hosts the UtahWaterSavers.com website, which residents and businesses can log on to and sign up for incentives to flip their park strip, to do other local scapes rewards, which is the local scape is a concept to minimizing turf and using alternative landscaping that's more adapted to Utah. Landscape consultations, toilet replacement rebates, and smart irrigation controller rebates are also available to residents by going to UtahWaterSavers.com. And that was a quick little review of what's available. I can answer some questions, and if none, then we'll turn it over to Jason.
Okay, any questions from the council for Mr. Packard? So Jake had a question, and I don't know who wants to answer it, as to whether our ordinances fall into line to qualify for the state funds that were allocated this year by the
Yes.
legislature.
Yeah, my understanding is West Valley City would qualify for the Salt Lake County funds,
Okay,
but the state funds require a mandatory compliance by a new development within the city boundaries to adhere to those landscape requirements. And my understanding is the city's resolution doesn't completely mandate it. There's still some elements of aspiration in the city's current structure of adoption.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for taking the opportunity to invite us. And so that we can talk a little bit about water. And also, we have a component of wastewater that I want to talk about and how meaningful that is. So just for a moment, I just want to talk about things that are impacting all the same individuals that we represent, that you represent and our board represents. And those majority of West Valley City, Granger Hunter Improvement District services the water and wastewater for most of those residents. And I'm sure you're aware of that, but I want to talk about some of the things that we're having to consider as we're moving forward on some challenges associated with being able to continue to supply that and collect the wastewater. So a little bit about some budget considerations, our master plan, and then what we're proposing for rate increases for this year, that we'll actually have a public hearing next week on those. I think it would be helpful for you to hear about some of the things that we're considering and how that might impact you. And again, so one thing I think is really important for us as we're considering those rates is the affordability of the citizens in this community. And we're all recognizing the challenges associated with that. And we're looking at it from a national standpoint. You know, what's the obligation for our community and water and wastewater, and making that a reasonable estimate. And you know, the millions of dollars that have to go into infrastructure right now, and are we getting too far out of bounds? And so I think it's helpful to look at some of those numbers. And could even touch on a lot of things that Alan talked about and the challenges associated with the drought. We're hearing so much about the drought, and that's obvious. And just so you're aware, in our community, because of the messaging that came from the governor's office in particular, and other messaging that's gone on, there's been about a 12% reduction in our community as well over the last couple of years. I think that's a significant thing with just as a volunteer basis being able to save water, super meaningful. And we'll have to look at opportunities to message so that we can get conservation whittled down, I think, or identified in a more significant manner so that we can whittle down the overall usage. So we just the image to the right is West Valley City boundaries. I'm telling you something you already know, but just on the left, just where Granger Hunter boundaries fit into the overall West Valley City boundaries. And that hopefully that's helpful. We are a water supplier and wastewater collection organization at the retail level that's one of the larger in the state. If you look at us nationally, well, I'm considerably on the smaller end, but that's Utah in general. But for us, a fairly large distribution organization with about 28,000 accounts. We have I know this isn't the population of West Valley City, but right now we're estimating about 130,000 customers. We have deep wells that we draw from the aquifer in addition to the water that Jordan Valley supplies us. And that's about a 75-25 split, 75 being from Jordan Valley water sources. So most of the water you're drinking in this community comes from Jordanelle and Deer Creek. Most probably don't know that. And then from wells. And then we do have tanks, several tanks that we store water in that across the community. Another thing I think it goes unrecognized is the fire hydrants and the fire infrastructure that's in place and our role in that, in maintaining that infrastructure. We deliver about 8 billion gallons of water a year. Seems like a lot. It is a lot. But when we talk about overall consumption with individuals, I think that's a message that most people don't recognize how much they actually use in a residential setting. So we do have a strategic plan about how we're going about identifying what our needs are within the community as it's associated with water and wastewater. And so I'm not going to go through all these, but just these are things that we're talking about right now, that we've got a 10-year master plan that says this is what we're going to need. Now, our infrastructure in our community it's aging. We're not like Boston or New York or other areas where it's 100, 150, 200 years old, but we're hitting that point where it's 50, 75 years, and we've got to make a bunch of replacements. And so we're focused in on not only what we need to do to fund the future, but also the other considerations that are going to be meaningful along the way. I won't address all of those, but they're meaningful to us. Just the overall cost to do projects right now are very significant. You're fully aware of that. Some of the bigger ones over by the cultural center, have you seen the building that's going on there? That's a water treatment facility for our deep wells that we're adding some filtration for manganese and iron so that the water quality will become better for the community. And I think that's a significant step up for us, for the community. Redwood Road, anytime you go into Redwood Road, that's very impactful. We've got a water and wastewater line. I saw earlier that the Sage Valley, is that the name of the community, that we're having to do some upgrades because of that development that's gone on there. And then just there's some typical improvements that go along with that. Our master plan study identifies what we're going to have to, the revenue that we'll have to have in order to maintain operations for water and wastewater. And I want to take just a minute to talk about Central Valley Water Conservancy Reclamation Facility. Is the wastewater treatment plant that we collect the wastewater through our organization with infrastructure and pump stations. We deliver it to Central Valley, one of 7 entities that contribute flow to that. And due to regulations from the EPA in the state, and also through aging infrastructure, that was over $400 million that was needed for that upgrade. They are about 2/3 of the way through that. So we provide 25% contribution to that facility. So the bill for our residents are about $100 million. Very significant. And so we've incorporated a plan to deal with not only that obligation, but what we're going to need to do with infrastructure updates or upgrades. And so there's some bonding associated with that, and our increase that's going to be warranted over these years of the next 10 years in increasing the rates. We are proposing a rate increase for this next budget year, which we are on a calendar year, so for 2023. And I won't go through all the details of this, but we do have a tiered structure so that those that have indoor use are at a lower rate. And then when they start getting into higher ends of consumption, which is typically outdoor use, that those costs go up. And also we have a Central Valley fee that we charge our customers, and that's going to go up significantly because of right now we collect not near enough what we need to pay for that debt. Earlier, I talked just a little bit about affordability. And right now, I'll just talk real briefly about what this matrix is, information is providing. So the gray columns on the left are information from the census, information, the most recent on the community that we live in and the actual household or the median household income. It says size on there on that 4th column, but it's median household income. And what this is saying is on the top line on that row in white is a dollar amount. That would be the bill that somebody would pay based on consumption in those columns that have numbers from 4 to 50. And there's 2 different methods that we apply to this. One is a percentage in that column underneath that's colored. So that percentage is associated with American Water Works Association percent of that income. So it's just a calculation based on that. And The green, yellow, and red are associated with the EPA's calculation on this, on whether it's a low impact, medium impact, or high impact. Customers are right now in the summer months are in that column of about 20 to 25,000 gallons. So you can see it's about a 1.3 to 1.4% of your income goes to water and wastewater, which under the EPA is about a medium impact. Although the median for the country is 1.5%. That's a number, and that's at the bottom there, that for water and wastewater, that is an average amount that someone would expect to pay for water and wastewater. We think that's meaningful as we look at rates for our customers. And this is something that if you're interested, you can look over on our infrastructure needs and how we're going to consider those and funding mechanisms in order to do that. So those are the question or the information that I'd like to present. And I think it's really meaningful, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with West Valley City in talking about these issues. I know you've got a variety of things that you consider, and we're not looking for necessarily a higher priority in the things that you do. We just welcome the opportunity to have the discussions that I think are impactful for the same individuals that are concerned about your topics, and they're concerned about what we're addressing as well. So appreciate some time to be able to share that message with you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Armstrong, did you want to address the council?
No, just here to enjoy the presentation.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Pastrick. He has some more information for us.
Thank you, Mayor. So it was earlier this year, the state legislature appropriated $5 million ongoing for a statewide grass removal incentive program that was part of the House Bill 121. And as part of this program, applicants can receive up to $1 per square foot for removing grass and replacing with drought-resistant landscaping. And this program will be launched this coming spring on the Utah Water Savers website. And I actually spoke with Courtney Brown, who's with Jordan Valley, about existing programs. And so there are, as we heard, the Flip Your Strip and other programs that exist. This new program that the state funded can actually be layered on top of existing programs. So if applicants meet all the requirements, they can receive up to $2 per square foot for lawn replacement beginning in the spring. However, for an applicant to be eligible for the state money, a project must be in a county or municipality that meets certain ordinance requirements or has certain ordinance requirements in their code. And that would apply, or those code requirements would apply to all new residential development. And you can see on the screen here the two provisions. So the first is that there would be no lawn in park strips or in any area less than 8 feet in width. And then the second is that there would be no more than 35% lawn in a front or side yard in a residential setting. So in the case of West Valley, we actually already have a restriction on lawn and park strips in areas less than 8 feet, but it only applies to developer installed landscaping. And what the state is essentially asking is that those standards would apply to all landscaping. So whether it's a homeowner or a developer, it would apply in both scenarios. And then we do not currently have the restriction or cap on the percentage of lawn in a front or side yard. So to be eligible for this new funding, the state $5 million, we would need to make these two changes to our code.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Pastrick?
In terms of funding, those who choose to comply with this and then apply for funding, that's directly with the state. The city doesn't play an intermediary in terms of the application or allocation. Is that right?
Right. The city's not involved in that, but it's and it's actually administered again through that Utah Water Savers website is where people would go to apply.
Great.
And this is on all new developments, correct?
This would be for, well, as far as the standards go, yes, yes,
But it will help people who are not new build to replace what they have. It makes them eligible now if we make these two changes.
correct.
So do you need direction from us to go forward?
That would be helpful. If you'd like us to do this, we would need to go back through the planning commission to officially start the process, if that's the desire of the council.
I'm in favor of that.
I'm in favor.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for our residents.
Um,
All right, and then is there a timing issue? Do we need to get it done quickly so they can put in their applications?
Just again, I don't have a firm date on it. What I've seen so far is just the spring, but
Okay.
certainly we could get, if we start on it right now, we could get that done before spring. So
Okay. I don't think we see any objection to that.
Just one comment, do we need to specify if we're only gonna do? We're not gonna allow lawn in park strips or areas less than 8 feet or. No more than 35% in the front. We need to specify. What else they can do, I guess we can talk about the code enforcement, another item, but.
So we have in our code right now for like single family homes, there's a list of landscaping that's acceptable. And so that's already in the code as far as single family is concerned.
Perfect. Thanks.
That
All right, so one of the gentlemen mentioned commercial landscaping as well. Do we need to make any tweaks for commercial landscaping? No unusable lawn in the park strips or?
So in those cases, at least for the no lawn and park strips in the areas less than 8 feet, that's generally, again, developer installed. And so that's already covered under the code. We don't have right now a cap on commercial or use of lawn in commercial settings. But so far, my understanding of this program is it's intended for residential use as far as the 5 million is concerned. But although the district, Jordan Valley, does have incentive programs for commercial situations, but my understanding is this new money is for residential.
Okay, let's just make sure we double check that one. Make sure we're not holding back our commercial developers from taking advantage of some funds, even to switch out those that have unusable lawn. That's not the proper word they're using these days, but I know a lot of our businesses have lawn that's unnecessary. Doesn't have a function. Okay, thank you. All right, we now have a presentation by Mr. Craig Thomas about our Operation My Hometown. We'll turn the time over to him.
Mayor Lane, Council, thank you so much for this opportunity to share about my hometown. It's pretty exciting. We do have some special guests with us tonight too. I just want to make sure we recognize them. We have Mark Rupp, who's been with us from pretty much the beginning, also representing the
Mark Durham.
Oh, sorry, Mark Durham. There's many Marks, many Steves, and many Craig's now. So, and a few Davids. So Mark Durham has been with us from the very beginning with the LDS Church. He also represents my hometown as it grows throughout the entire state as well. We have Wynn Egan here from the North Granger Community Resource Center, and we have Jim Phillips as well, who is with the North Granger interfaith efforts with that group. Before I get started though, I want to get us in the mood for my hometown. So we're going to show a short video clip if we could.
there's no words that can explain my gratitude to all these people from hometown and the city of West Valley that had come and gotten together to do this project and help me out being a widow and low income. I appreciate so very much, like the miracle from heaven that has come to help me and make my yard look better.
The harder you work for something, so like you're working hard for English, the greater you will feel when you achieve it.
I need a class for my wife.
I love you, I love you, I love your language English and my life. Yo estoy feliz y agradecida a esta familia, hermanos de la iglesia que están sirviendo y prestando su tiempo para ayudarnos a nosotros. Y yo estudio y oro mucho para aprender este idioma.
I thank them with the bottom of my heart, how grateful I am for them.
So the tagline for my hometown is building community together. If you remember, we launched my hometown in 2020. It was a bit of a difficult year. We did a launch party. 2 weeks later, we have an earthquake. 2 weeks later, we have COVID that shuts us all down. So tonight is an amazing opportunity to share what has been accomplished in 2 short years, especially this year. And I got to stop looking at Nicole because I'm going to cry. Did that last meeting. So my hometown is built on partnerships. It's all about our residents. It's about our corporate partners. It's about our faith institution leaders and partners. It's about our volunteers, and it's about the city. It's all of us coming together to work on this. We have 3 my hometown areas now. If you remember, we started with 1. One's a good starting point, but this year we have 2 active. We'll be growing into a 3rd. Granger area came online this year. They had their grand opening of their CRC. They started with the Granger area and then they expanded into the Constitution area in blue. They also are looking for plans for next year, 2023. We are hearing rumblings of 3 new areas or 3 new neighborhoods in the Granger area. So this is going to be an exciting 2023. North Granger was our first area with the Stansberry neighborhood. They have grown to 4 neighborhoods. They are also going through some restructuring. So these maps will look different in 2023. And then we have our West Granger area that's coming online a little bit faster than we anticipated, honestly. They're still picking a neighborhood to start with. It is rumored that they will be starting in the Scottsdale area. A potential community resource center has been identified in that area as well. So good things coming in West Granger, hopefully in 2023. When we talk about the community resource centers, we'll start with the Granger one that opened this year. I alphabetized it for some reason, sorry. So it started with North Granger, they're the one that's been most active. So for Granger, they just opened this year. They had a soft opening with ESL classes, and then they expanded that in their fall lineup. They have about 42 volunteers working in that CRC. As a total, their best guesstimate is that they're right around 6,449 volunteer hours just in that one CRC. They have 6 classes that we're running. They just wrapped up their classes last week. They'll be restarting classes in January. Let's see. I had some notes. So some of the classes that they're actually exploring expanding into in 2023. They'd like to get a youth council started, ukulele classes, talking more about grants that are available through the city, and also starting their own business. One great number on here too to look at, their Granger CRC grand opening in the fall. They had over 750 people that came to that event, which was pretty amazing. They also had 6 neighborhood block parties. So it was a busy August for them and for us. North Granger, our first CRC, they continue to just be amazing. They are in a slightly smaller building, not quite as much room. So they have been working on cross populating the CRCs. So when one class might be really small at the Granger CRC or the North Granger CRC, they're teaming up to hold a class together in one of the buildings, or one of our partner faith-based groups, like over at Mount Calvary. So they're doing pretty amazing work over there. They are wrapping up classes this week, I want to say. Is that right? And they have 3 pianos recitals scheduled for Thursday night. So they also have their friends, their ESL friends, Thanksgiving dinner Thursday night. So it's going to be a busy night at that CRC. They had about 19,512 volunteer hours, what they were counting just from that one CRC. Their celebration, if you remember, they had their grand opening last year. This year it was off the hook. It was insane. They had about 1,200 people at that event. And they plan that in concert with our Interfaith Council as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about them. They had 14 block parties in my hometown area, in North Granger, my hometown. So very busy August in North Granger area. North Granger area also has a lot of special events that they do. Thank you, Wynn. You can see they're very busy over there. They have many different events and activities to help really build community and sense of neighborhood in that area. Their ESL Thanksgiving is this Thursday. Their Youth Council Friendsgiving was last week. I want to say they had about 150 at that. Didn't make it into here. But just an amazing, amazing organization over there. Granger came online with days of service this year. Just with their initial neighborhood, they did grow into the Constitution neighborhood for their last day of service. They had about 1,061 volunteers is what their guess was that came in to help with those days of service, and 122 additional resident volunteers that helped with those days of service. So we're seeing that trend more and more in all the days of service projects where residents are getting more and more involved in participating. They did 103 projects, 103 homes. You saw some of the people, smiling faces, it's changing lives. It's amazing. Their projects, the North Granger area has the same project list. They're all doing the same work. They're building handicap ramps, accessibility ramps into homes. They're re-landscaping people's yards. They're helping paint people's homes. They're helping people get into compliance with code. They're doing whatever is asked by the resident to help. And we're seeing those homeowners participate more and more in the funding of those projects too. Many of the projects are just projects that they don't have the time or the ability to get to, but sometimes they have the resources to help pay for the projects. So it's really becoming a great partnership there too. North Granger, like I said, same types of projects. They had 240 projects, 194 total homes that they impacted this year. 406 resident volunteers. So doing great work. Our youth council is growing in my hometown area. This is the North Granger Youth Council. They have 10 advisors, another 1,600 volunteer hours, about 12 regular active youth. But you can see on their activities, they're going all the time. Some of their attendance is a little bit higher than the average 12, right? So they're bringing in a lot of youth and from other faith institutions. They're bringing in youth from the schools. They're making a lot of friendships and connections with one another that way. Our Interfaith Council came online this year, right? This year. They've also been very busy. They've had their hands in a lot of different things. They hosted the Yabasta over at Mount Calvary. They helped with the North Granger CRC party. The Bridal Up program, Faith in Blue, they helped us host the Faith in Blue over at Mount Calvary. They're helping plan the Christmas program. They'll be holding at Granger High School this year, and they're participating in the days of service. There's roughly 18 different faith institutions that have been contacted and invited to participate. These are just more the regulars that we see at the meetings. They do have a regular meeting. It was supposed to be quarterly.
Planning sessions.
It's more like monthly or bi-weekly. They're a very great group. Some amazing friendships are being built. Connections between faith institutions that have not typically communicated with one another and now holding hands and doing activities and events together. So it's amazing. Just to wrap up some of the numbers, try to tally things up a little bit. So these may be fairly accurate, fairly not accurate. I don't know. If we total up all the volunteers from all the different programs, we're looking at about 3,571 volunteers that are participating. That equates to over 51,000 service hours that are being brought to West Valley City. Just to give you an idea, if we use the national average for what a volunteer hour is worth of $30, that's $1.5 million of value just from the service volunteers. That's pretty amazing just by itself. But what's important also to know with the volunteers, that's a lot of volunteers. We have amazing leadership built into my hometown. We have the service coordinators and volunteers who come from a wide variety of backgrounds, business owners, faith leaders, doctors, lawyers, somebody that's working down at the tire shop, tradesmen. They bring a lot of different skills and skills and knowledge to the table. And they're the ones that are managing all of these volunteers. It's something that's well beyond our capacity to handle 5,000 or 3,000 volunteers. So it's amazing that these people are accomplishing so much in such a short amount of time. Nicole once used the term secret sauce in one of the meetings. I'm going to say our secret sauce is not an individual. Our secret sauce lies in our residents who are coming to the table and participating. Our secret sauce includes My Hometown volunteers who come out in the hundreds on a day of service, who probably do the same on most of our CRC nights. The buildings are packed. It's our businesses. It's everybody. It's about that building community together. That is the secret sauce of My Hometown. I think it's also noteworthy to maybe add that, that My Hometown started here in West Valley City. It has grown. It will continue to grow. It's now in Ogden. It's now in Provo. They're trying in Salt Lake. Trying. But we still constantly hear from volunteers and from leaders that West Valley City is the best, and we do it right. And it's not just Steve, it's not just Nicole, it's not me. It's also Margot, it's Alex, it's all of our city staff that help. It's Dan, it's Lane. We have almost every city department head is involved at some point and contributing to my hometown in a very special way. I think that's it. I think we do have one more video. It's a little bit longer, so I hope you should have brought popcorn. Hopefully you enjoy this one. This one was put together by our Granger neighborhood services team. And it kind of highlights their year in the Granger area. Their first year with days of service. Hopefully it'll work.
Check it out. I need to recommend. I have the best view. It's so awesome. Oh.
Wake up tomorrow morning.
So thank you for indulging the long video. We thought it was important for you to not just see the volunteer side of things, but also see the faces of the homeowners that are being impacted by my hometown. And to see that map at the very end in the Granger area. That was one neighborhood, and how expansive that one program has become just in that small area of Granger with the days of service. Probably shouldn't try to share this story, but in the Granger area, there is a resident just down the street who has been a shut-in for a number of years, who is not comfortable leaving her home. Most of her deliveries and shopping is done by others to help her. My hometown Granger contacted her as a possible site for some home improvements to help her. She is now leaving her home. She is now talking to neighbors. She's now participating in the community and engaging over the Community Resource Center. That's a simple miracle that's happened through this program. So it's pretty amazing. Anyway, I'll stop now. Are there any questions I can entertain?
Any questions for Craig?
Congratulations. It's done well.
I think one of the main reasons it's working so well is because of our staff. And I can tell you from the events I have been, now I'll follow Craig and just start crying too. I have just as many volunteers tell me how much they love this program, how much they love working with this program, and how much joy it's brought to their lives, as well as the recipients of the program. So I think it's blessed both sets of lives, and it's been a really wonderful situation for our city. So thanks for all your hard work and the volunteers. They do a great job.
I love the hot dogs. It's not because of the hot dog.
Scroll.
Hey. The offerings for National Night Out apparently.
One question. Based off the presentation that you folks gave, Nicole was there as well, with the steering committee and the U and all that a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of interest around other communities here that would like to see the programming in their areas. Can you help us understand kind of what the what criteria you're using to prioritize which communities you're now moving into?
A lot of that is worked out jointly in kind of an executive team setting. Identifying the resources that are available, number one, and if we can handle additional areas and sites, and what the volunteer base might look like to go into those areas and what the reception might be. It is from the ground up. It is not from us telling them. It is an invitation from the neighborhood to come into their community. We are seeing some of our neighborhoods trying to emulate this program on their own. So that's also pretty amazing. Is that anything about it?
Okay, thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
All right, we now have our code enforcement policy and procedures. Is anyone ready for that one tonight? We have plenty of time if you want to start digging in. This is for us, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not ready? Anybody ready to go on this one? Not seeing anybody jumping to the opportunity. Okay, we'll put that off to another time. Council calendars. Anybody have any questions or concerns about the calendar? There's a lot going on. Yes. You have a concern?
No,
Oh.
I'm just waving to.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, thank you.
I'm like, you don't generally have a concern
No,
about the
no,
calendar.
no.
Okay. All right, nothing there. Any potential future agenda items? This time? No? Council reports. Yes.
Over the last couple of weeks, I've been to a couple of conferences with the Mosquito Abatement District. One of them was at the UASD, the Association of Special Districts. And there were a couple of presentations there on cybersecurity and also using social media effectively. And I've taken some notes. I'll talk to IT and PR and talk to them about some of the ideas I picked up. See how they feel about it. Nothing. I checked with IT already, and the big questions I had on cybersecurity, they're already working on.
Okay.
when you get a federal officer explaining how to get around all your security methods, because he's had to go that way to get the guys that are doing it, you start worrying a little bit. So I talked to IT tonight and they said, he's coming out to check ours out again next week, so.
Oh, good. They do it on like site inspection?
Yeah,
They do.
they
Nice.
work hand in hand with the Department of Cybersecurity under Homeland Security. I didn't know there was even that department. So,
It's a relatively new creation.
I'm gonna say, it wasn't
Yeah.
at the last district meeting I went to, so
Right.
special district.
And they've been making the rounds of doing these presentations to various entities. And I happened to see one of them a few months ago and actually said, yeah, okay, we do various things to check our own systems, of course, and even from
Right.
outside entities, but this would be a good opportunity to have another and a different look from the entities that are supposedly, like Don said, in charge of trying to bust the bad guys anyway on this, so. yeah,
Great.
having that looked at too.
Okay, thank you.
and, you know, mosquito abatement, I didn't realize how extensive a corporate thing mosquito abatement was, but we've got a small mosquito abatement district. Our group, there was one that had a $2 million budget. They fund all their airplanes and their helicopters and everything in Florida. But we're lucky to look at 500,000 and 91 employees and things like that. So we've got 5 current or 5 year-round employees and everybody else is seasonal. So,
Okay.
so it's a big operation that you don't really realize until you get into it. It was very interesting conferences and my wife said, she said, "Oh, now you're gonna take back stuff to the city already," because everybody was on your group was in there in that
Oh.
presentation. I said, yep. So we came in and talked about it.
Good, thank you.
Uh-huh. Also, attended the a group on growth. It's a state-run coalition about growth. Last week, and they invited city council and things, and the one thing that I brought back from it that all of the city councilmen sitting at my table also said was, why haven't we heard about this earlier? And why haven't we seen some of these slides before now? If they're doing these studies for Wasatch Front and everybody else, why don't we get to see them too? Because we're the ones that are making the decisions that'll put all this into effect. And I think that went back on the report from our table, but it, was amazing. Some of the things it's all planned out there. Now they just need to tell us in the cities what they'd like us to do to carry out their plan. But we hadn't heard about it before. And after that, I went down to the place setting, opening a cultural center. And they didn't have as many there as they've had for other grand openings, but they've got a beautiful display about coordinated with the University of Utah. And it's worth getting out and seeing. It'll be here through December, so
Okay,
get a chance to get out and see it.
just at the cultural center.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the gallery.
All right, thank you.
I'll let Tom report on the other thing we went to.
Oh, the press run day? Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. It's great. Yeah, awesome. Well, had a good time. Had a chance to visit people there. Great.
I went to Rolling Meadows to their 50th birthday party. It was a lot of fun. I was amazed at all the people there. I guess we had city staff there and it was great.
Traditional hot dogs or something different?
I didn't.
You didn't go for the
I didn't eat
food, yeah.
anything, so I don't know what they
Taking
were
notes,
feeding.
there you go. Nothing formal that I haven't brought up. Thanks.
I did receive a thank you from the Rolling Meadows area today. Well, probably whenever, but I read it today. And we had the opportunity, we had two gentlemen come into my office late April or May, maybe even March. And they had a concern that they have a house in their neighborhood where the lady that lived there wasn't able to take care of this huge tree on this, in her side yard. It was interfering with the sidewalk, lifting it, the gutter, the road. And some of the limbs they've been cutting off for her to be able to make it so trucks didn't rub on it, and things like that. And after talking to staff, our staff jumped in and helped with dumpsters. The community or the neighborhood helped with the man hours mainly, but city staff got the dumpsters there. They repaired the sidewalk, the gutter, the roads, and they were very, very, this is my second thank you from them. So just to let you know, staff is doing a great job out there helping people. It's not, you don't have to live in my hometown to still have those benefits of helping when you really have a need. So that was a really good one. I appreciated that.
They didn't just go in and cut it down like other cities, huh?
It was removed all the way.
No.
Yeah.
But we always do that with the neighborhood's approval.
Yeah.
Not as many as other cities.
Right. Oh, no, they're not taking out 300 on one street.
Right.
That's what you're going to. I'm like, what are you
Right.
talking about? Yeah, I do remember seeing that.
You know, to that point, we have had neighborhoods as we've come up around the schedule and said we're gonna do curb and gutter repairs and sidewalk buckling and all that. And neighborhoods that said, you know, we really don't want to lose our trees. And we generally, unless there's some other really mitigating or extenuating circumstance, say fine. And the reason for that isn't necessarily that the sidewalk doesn't need it, but of course, as you guys all know, our list is so long, there's plenty of places for us to go where they
Yeah.
want us to. So definitely have done that in the past too.
And so then I also went to an open house today for a new company that has moved their distribution from Singapore to West Valley. And they're over in part of the Franklin Covey building. The name of the company is Code. And they're the people that make our life so convenient when somebody just zaps the barcode and either rings up our product at the grocery store or keeps track of our medicines at the hospital. And so they've moved their distribution closer to their customers. The supply chain issue really hit them hard and they realized they needed the supplies in the United States, just a few days away from their customers instead of months away from their customers. So that was a really nice open house and they've set up a really productive area. It's not huge, but how they have it set up, they're going to be very, very well-run machines. So that was really interesting to see. So, okay, that's my two things. We do have a need for a closed session. Someone would like to make that recommendation
So moved.
for legal.
For the purposes of.
Professional
competency or professional competence.
You want professional competency? Okay,
Second.
and let's see, Nicole, roll call vote.
Sorry. Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilman Whitstone,
Yes.
Councilman Harmon,
Yes.
Councilman Hume,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Ling.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, give you 5 minutes and then 6 o'clock, we'll start in.